Hello, and welcome to GuidesYou.com, the program that guides you through financial and life challenges. This week on Guides You, Wendy is going to be talking about financial documents and how long you want to hold on to them.
So, how long should you keep paperwork around? The answer is, of course, it depends, but we can break it down into a couple easy frameworks. So, the first issue is about tax returns. So, if it's relating to a tax return, you keep 3 years plus the one you're in. So, if you're listening to this in July of 2021, you need to keep the 20 tax return, the 19, and the 18, and of course, everything having to do with the 21. If you are self-employed or you had some substantial transactions going on, you sold a rental house, you won the lottery, something big happened, you need to go 7 years back. So keep 7 years of old tax returns. For most people, the issue here is that if there's a chance of substantial misstatement, fraud, they will go 7 years back on an audit. And so you want to have all your backup materials for how you came up with your numbers. Then, if you have an asset, a financial asset you have not yet sold, so for example, you have a rental house, we want to keep track of all of the improvements you've made to the rental house, including when you bought it. We want to know everything about buying that house and things you've done to it until it's sold, and then 3 years later, if it's a taxable sale, or 7 years later. So anything having to do with an existing asset. So that also means if you bought stock in 1985 and haven't sold it yet, but you still have the stock market ticket from buying it, that doesn't happen very often anymore. But if it's a situation for you, we want to hold on to those until the asset is sold. So financial and real assets that you still own, we want to keep. There's the tax returns themselves, I think we also want to keep, just like the actual tax return, not the W-2s, not all of the receipts for charity, but the actual tax returns. We end up using your history of IRA contributions once in your life. We also end up using just the evidence that you filed, the yellowed piece of paper that looks like it was put in the file cabinet 15 years ago. That's useful sometimes, rarely, but occasionally. So we keep the tax returns themselves. I say leave it for your biographer. We also like to keep a recent statement from every single investment or liability that you have that would go on your statement of net worth. See my other video about that. Something that is just a physical piece of paper, a clue, has your account number on it, has how it's titled, a statement, not a screenshot. That's great. Conversely, I'd really like it if you threw out the stuff that's closed. Like if you bought an American Century back when it was 20th century investments or something, and you closed it in 1999, I don't want to find that folder lying around because I'm going to think that you have a mutual fund I haven't found somewhere. So just if it's gone, maybe even put a sticky note in it saying, I'm keeping this because I still have one of the items, but mostly it's in with the TD Ameritrade account now, or something. Just make it clear. I had a client whose mother had a passbook savings account for a bank in Maryland that had changed names many times. But I had this passbook savings, so I knew she had accounts at that bank. And so we were just looking and looking. We could not find that account. And I think that she just stopped using it at some point. But I had a clue that there was a bank account there. So we were looking. It's very hard to prove those negatives. So if you do not still have that bank book, don't keep that as a particular memento of your life unless you put a sticky note on it saying that this account is closed. You do not need to keep all of the notices about shareholders' reports or annual prospectuses or offers to vote in proxy votes for investments, none of that needs to be kept. Just, we don't even need to keep every single statement, just like the most recent statement is enough. I do like you to keep the IRS form 5498 that comes with from whoever has your IRAs. That's a super handy piece of paper to have someday. So if you see those, I think that those are a good thing to keep with your IRA information, but we don't have to keep every statement. I think it's a good idea to have some clearly laid out places where you have insurance. I think we really like it when people can give us some hints about who are in the pictures. So anytime you can spend some time cleaning up your pictures, there's some really clever things you can do with sending out pictures to be digitized and turned into picture albums, which are much easier to keep on a shelf. Particularly as you age, it could be very fun to have travel albums from that time you went to Africa and rode on a camel, and show it to your caregivers and help them to realize you're just a really cool person who is currently disguised as an old person. So do what you can with cleaning up the pictures. I think that it's important to maybe, and this is going to be different for different people, but I've heard a lot of people say that they really appreciate reading the diaries and then burning them. They are not the 16-year-old covered in angst that wrote that. They're not the young mother who hated the sleeplessness, and maybe the kids don't need to read that later. So do go through your papers, clean things out. Do not throw out thesis papers or papers you wrote in college or things that you created. I think people really value the things you created much, much more than you expect them to. So artwork my grandmother did is the main thing that people have squabbled over as they closed her estate. Anything that she created herself is just so much more valuable than you expect. So I'm really glad to actually have her diary, but I suspect I don't have all of her diaries. I think she threw some out. So there's a thought about paperwork to clean up and then what to save and what to toss. I hope this was helpful.
Thanks again for joining us for this week's presentation by GuidesYou.com. Subscribe to see upcoming episodes and ring the bell to get notifications when a new video is up. For more information about our programs, go to www.guidesyou.com. See you next time!